I got Becky to butt bump. Cool. So the other day, I was out with my wonderful, glorious son, Joey, and we went to one of these new science fiction movies, alien type movies, and you know, you reach that scene where Earthlings encounter the aliens, right? We've seen this in Mars Attacks. What are some of the other movies? Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There's a lot of movies where you have this moment where you meet the alien. And the Earthlings are somewhat a little trepidation. They don't know whether the alien is going to reach out and give them a big Jeff Pulver hug or if they're going to eat them. You know, you don't know. And this happened in the movie the other day. It's a pattern we see over and over in movies. And in this particular case, I feel a little bit like one of those aliens from another planet sometimes, because I'm in the business world, but I'm an artist. And how this came to be is an odd little thing. Many years ago, I was walking down the street in New York. I just hung a show on a Friday, and the opening wasn't going to be until the following Friday, so I'm walking down the West Village. And there used to be these places called The Wiz. Nobody beats The Wiz. And you could go in, and they would give anybody a credit card. I got one, and I walked out of there with a computer. Everybody was talking about computers then. They were just emerging. And this thing happened to have been packed with all the software you could possibly want to learn about relational databases and that sort of thing. So I took it home, and with a combination of cabin fever and what my friend Liz Strauss calls density learning. By the way, we should have a game at 140 conferences, how often Liz Strauss gets mentioned by speakers. So that was her mention here. But through this combination of dogged determination, I was playing with the thing, and I got really good at working with relational databases. And then this thing called the web came along, and before long, I'd created a business that created websites. And up until the time I sold it a few years back, we were doing all the sites for the American Museum of Natural History, and it had really grown, become a business. But over the years, I was very shy about walking into another business person's office, a CEO's office, and saying, oh, by the way, look, I'm an artist also, because you would just lose all credibility. Artists are the crazy people in our world. They're the insane people in our culture. They're the people who are willing to do audacious, insane things, and we sort of tolerate them. So I sort of separated my life. I had the business life. I had my life as an artist. Social media happened. Do we keep ourselves separate? Well, many of us tried. And over time, we decided, no, this doesn't really work too well. Let's go ahead and share our full selves, which I started to do. And an odd thing happened as I met people. They were sort of interested in this artist side. So I've let this happen. And I think that's a wonderful part about social media, is that we have allowed ourselves to become more integrated across the business spectrum. But what I'm interested also is that there's aspects to this art world that actually inform and make for a better business world. The Pope once sent a messenger to the famous painter Giotto, and he said, Giotto, send me a drawing to demonstrate your greatness. And Giotto pulled out a brush and some ink, and he drew an absolutely perfect circle, and he sent it back to the Pope. And the Pope could see that, yes, Giotto is a great artist. An artist I knew had heard that story growing up. So every day he would try to draw these perfect circles. And they were always a little bit lopsided. And after years of struggling, drawing these perfect circles, he said, well, that lopsided circle, that's me. And in this day and age of personal branding, I think we have to make room and accommodation for our imperfect selves, that it actually adds authenticity to who we are and helps us be a little bit more trusted. Usually when people first start making art, they really focus on getting things right. So they're drawing something, and they're concentrating on that ear, that nose, and I got to get it right. And sometimes you see people, when they're learning to draw, they're going back and forth because they're uncertain of themselves, and that's called sketching. And the drawing, in effect, or the painting, becomes about an attempt to get it right. And a piece of art that is about trying to get it right ultimately isn't very interesting. But as people get more comfortable making art and their drawing, they become more sure of themselves. They can start actually talking about the ear, talking about the relationship of the ear to the face, or some other aspect of what art making is all about. And they're very certain. And this certainty becomes very persuasive, becomes a beautiful thing. And you don't see in graffiti art and children's art and the art of schizophrenics this sort of uncertainty. You see it in really fabulous art. And that's an element of art that I think can lend itself to business. A lot of art today is about innovation, constant innovation. This is what modern art is all about, this constantly creating new. It wasn't always that way. In the Osmont art, say, of New Guinea, it takes generations and generations for change to creep in. But in today's age, we work really hard at constantly creating new art. And that, too, is something that we see in business. You're constantly having to create something new. Last week, I was watching Guy Kawasaki's video on the death of Steve Jobs, and he was talking about how Jobs created products not based on consumer demand. He created from a higher purpose of really creating wonderful, wonderful products. And artists are like that. Artists don't create paintings because they think that, oh, somebody needs this painting. And it's not that either Jobs or artists are ignoring the world. They're not turning their back to the world and saying, screw you, I don't care about you. But their focus is just on something that is much greater than customer need. Artists, like business, have process. We don't eschew process. We love process. You go into any artist studio and they're extremely process-oriented. There's little processes. There's big processes. There's the process of every time I walk in my studio and I start to painting, paintings always start off with a glorious euphoria. It's a white thing. I can really move around. And as you work on a painting, you become more and more frustrated because there's no manual for creating a piece of art. There's no guidebook, right? Each new piece is something new. And you become frustrated, and then finally you have a breakthrough. Euphoria, frustration, breakthrough. That's the artist's creative process. We know it very well. We do it every time we go to make a piece of art. So we do have this crossover with that world. In the business world, in the world of manufacturing, we've seen the Japanese have developed these wonderful process improvement methodologies. You have Lean, the Toyota system, Six Sigma. And in their systems, they're working very hard at eliminating waste. In fact, in the Lean system, there are 7 different forms of waste. It's like Eskimos with snow. They actually have different names for the different waste. Whereas in the art world, we love waste. We embrace waste. Every time we go in the studio, we have to be wasteful. If we're not wasteful, we're not creating. We're not being generative of innovation. And I do think, in a way, that business also, while maybe on a particular manufacturing floor they can't create waste, but in a big way, business does create waste. Every single startup that starts up and fails, that's a waste, but it's a necessary waste to the entire cycle of creation. So what are our KPIs in art, right? Our key performance indicators. We have those too. It's very, very different. You know, I think the gist of what I'm trying to say in all of this, because it is not difficult. I haven't resolved the mix of being an artist and a business person. It's complex. You know, business is all about efficiency. Art is anything but about efficiency. Old school business is about fulfilling customer needs, not art. But there's something extremely transformational about art. A world without art is barren. And I don't think, you know, having art in your business is not just about having pictures in the boardroom or in the conference room. It's really about bringing the spirit of art into the entire play of business and how that's going to be part of what makes business in this next decades to come something much more powerful and transformational. So my baseline urge is only that we all work, whether it's as business or as organizations, to bring art more into our lives. Thank you.